You're listening to the iRacers Lounge podcast, where we discuss everything iRacing in a casual setting. Enjoy. Welcome to the iRacers Lounge. I'm your host, Mike Ellis. iRacers Lounge is the podcast for the iRacer, where we talk all things iRacing in a casual setting. Joining me are the usual characters, Brian McCubbin.
Howdy, everyone. How you doing?
All right. Greg Hectus.
Road course week, baby.
Kyle Pendergraft.
Long time no see.
Hey, and special guest, Evan Pasoko.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming. On today's show, we'll recap an exciting Coke race at Watkins Glen. And thanks to your donations in the 4 hours of Charlotte, Greg Hill sings. And let's go with some great secrets from the iRacing Vault. And we'll cover them all here on the lounge.
And remember, guys, you can follow along with us on your PC or mobile device in real time as you listen to the show and see for yourself. All the great topics and products we'll be discussing today by visiting the iRacersLounge.com and selecting show notes. So we hope to see you there.
Grid Finder 2.0 is bigger and better than ever with more ways to narrow your search for your next sim racing league. Featuring over 1,000 leagues from over 25 racing sims across every platform, your place on the grid is just a couple clicks away. Visit www.grid-finder.com to find a league or to upload your own. Grid Finder is the home of online sim racing leagues. And let's talk Coke race. Little housekeeping before the action, Evan. We got Greg Hill talking about Leak Week, as I call it, given the command to start the engines. And, of course, what a pleasure Steve Letarte is to have in the booth.
Yeah, I was able to tease it a little bit after the All-Star, right, that we'd have a couple of special guests. And Steve is going to be with us, I guess, now for the final 5 races after Watkins Glen. And I believe the plan is also to have Parker Clearman back on the show as well. So you can't beat the insight and the presence of somebody like Steve, right? Obviously, his real-world pedigree and all the work that he's done now as an analyst with NASCAR and NBC, he takes it serious. I can guarantee you that from talking with him pre-race and post-race. He does his research. He watches these races week in and week out. So. It's awesome just from I think a viewership standpoint. I think he adds a lot to the broadcast, but just personally also he's a great guy to call a race with.
Well, it comes across very authentic from Steve, just like it does when he does the real NASCAR races, and I think it really helps the viewer with some crossover to wow, this is NASCAR. I mean, at the end of the day, especially when you got Steve Letarte in your ear telling you about it, it really does feel like real NASCAR. And the racing definitely lived up to the NASCAR name. So let's go through a couple other housekeeping. There was a new commercial you guys were playing over and over featuring none other than the director Dale Earnhardt Jr. doing the voiceover for the iRacing commercial. That was nice. And then also a new Logitech sponsorship.
Yeah, the sponsors continue to come in, and the Logitech G923 is now the official wheel and pedal of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series, which is super cool. They've already been involved as a sponsor on the William Byron Esports cars for the last couple of seasons, and now they join the likes of Asus, DoorDash, and Coke as some of the sponsors of the series itself. So anytime you can get new partners involved, it's fun. I'm not a racer myself, but I've been using Logitech stuff for 7-8 years. Not just I think I got the 923 at home that I bust out every once in a while, but I've got everything Logitech: speakers, keyboard, mouse, headset. So great company to have involved.
Absolutely. And so right before the green, Matheson has trouble and is off track before the green even happens. And we have a crazy opening lap and lives up to expectations for sure. But it was Graham Bolin on the pole, and he hangs on, but Bobby Zielinski's right there with him. Stephen Wilson sits on that final step of the podium, and the Road King this year, Mitchell de Jong, is down in P4.
Yeah, he was slipping. At one point, he was as low as P6. And I think it was obviously, I mean, we had heard people saying all kind of afternoon long leading up to the race, like, hey, Graham's got speed. Like, don't be surprised if he does something. But you expect it to be Mitchell, right? Mitchell 1, Bobby 2. They're up there, but Graham Bolin with a lot to race for. Super impressive qualifying on pole for this race. And I think a lot of that chaos on the opening lap of the race stems from how bad of a start it was for de Jong. I mean, I've seen angles from guys like Conti and some of the other guys in the field passing half a dozen cars on the opening lap. So there was certainly excitement everywhere. But Mitchell just didn't get off to a good start. And that poor start for him would kind of formulate how this race would play out. But, Graham held on strong early. You mentioned Stephen Wilson. He's had a handful of really good runs this year, started up front and in the mix. And once we got through those first couple of laps, things started to settle in a little bit.
That's right. They did settle down through the field after that. Bolin's lead wasn't a good one. There was a little bit of a gap there. And then lap 10, it was about a half a second. Blade Witt, he actually slapped the outside wall after contact with Nathan Lyon.
Yeah, you're going to have your little bits of contact here and there. I think Bobby is the one who said on Twitter that it was the least technical of the road courses. And I know that Steve said on air that Watkins Glen's kind of the super speedway of the road courses. There was actually some discussion after we raced at COTA earlier this year, discussions that got very far along, where we thought about having caution flags in these races. I don't know the specifics, if it was going to be at a specific lap time, if it was going to be at a random lap time, but there were discussions that got very high up in the process of if we were going to have yellows in these races. The end result was not. So obviously you have a race where these incidents hurt guys so bad because, you get some damage. I mean, you spin out, lose some spots. You're not getting that back in these road races where we do not have full course cautions.
Mike, can I step in here for a sec? Hold on. It would be nice to have David here for this call to talk to. Like, Evan, do you think that some of that, like, they held back from that because they were worried that they were just going to have multiples of them over and over again because of, you get everybody packed up and diving down into one again?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they certainly were looking into it, right? I mean, and I was very close to the point where I wouldn't have been surprised if we were going to do it. I feel like the concerns were not necessarily along the lines of we don't really want guys wanted up on the restarts, because I think in part, if you're going to implement yellows, not that you want cars wrecking, right? But you're going to get some crazy restarts out of it. Kind of same thought process that you see in the Cup Series these days with stage breaks, and you're getting more restarts in. I think the thing that deterred race control and everybody at iRacing and NASCAR from eventually making that decision to go to the yellows was they just couldn't figure out the best way to implement it. I'm sure these discussions are going to happen next year. It's going to happen the year after that. My interpretation, based on what I heard, was that they really just couldn't hammer down a perfect or the most fair way on saying, caution's coming out at lap 25, that's it. Or caution's coming between lap 20 and 30. I think that's more so where they couldn't come to an agreement that everybody agreed upon with the drivers as well.
David and I on the team here were part of a league that implemented, they picked a random number of incidents, and once they had something that they had written, an incident counter, and as soon as it reached that incident amount, that's when they threw the caution out. So it was kind of nice for the road racing because you could get tightened up, but you never knew when it was coming. So it kind of threw a little bit of strategy into it. But I don't know if it's something they could add to it, but I think cautions on the road courses would help. Anybody that has a bad start, you're never going to recover from it.
These guys.
I think it wouldn't be the worst of ideas, and I've seen that too, right? In some of the league racing stuff I've done, where race control will say, if it's a 40-lap race, hey, there's going to be a caution at some point. midway between lap, say, 15 and 25, right? Kind of centering around the middle. So guys can pit early before they think the yellow is going to come out. They can kind of stay and go after. I feel like at this level, though, that maybe the best way to implement that would be to have, like active race control, and have active race control decide on what's a caution and what's not a caution. Part of me kind of wants that on the ovals too, because we kind of see somebody lock it up and they save the car, but the sim triggers the yellow anyways. But I get that can be a little bit. I don't know if you want to take the human element out of it a little bit, and try to reduce judgment calls. But certainly on the road courses, I wouldn't be opposed to, if we wad up 5 cars, that race control actually comes out and they would manually throw full course cautions for stuff like that.
Yeah, why not? Especially up through the S's when it blocks up the track. So lap 13, Bobby was still trying to chip into Graham Boland's lead, down to about 4/10, but the real battle was Mitchell trying to get around Steven Wilson. He threw it in there once on turn 1 and kind of got him, but Wilson got it back, and so it was a good battle there. And then lap 18 is really when pits started to happen, and we had the Elliott Esports Vicente Salas and Garrett Main's pit on lap 18. Nathan Lyon also went for a wild ride on that lap and into the gravel, but did save it. And then 19, Keegan Leahy, Shearburn pit. 20, Mitchell, Corey Vincent, Dylan Duvall pit. Anthony Burrows, John Galinsky also on pit road. And then lap 21, the leader pits from the lead, Graham Boland. And then right after that, Bobby Zielinski, 1 lap later, he pits on lap 22.
Yeah, the 21-22 number didn't shock me that much. I did think, though, overall, the pit cycle came a little bit earlier than I was expecting it to. I always tend to favor the coming a few laps shy of the halfway point. You could have gone to 25, so you could have made it super easy and just gone at halfway. But I think we saw towards the end, not to jump ahead, but a 1 or 2 lap difference in tires wasn't a huge benefit. Obviously, it would help you through the actual pit cycle itself, with that first 1 or 2 laps back out on track. But I did just generally think the pit stops will roll a little bit early. But Graham from the lead has the ability to kind of get surprised by a couple of people, right? DeYoung comes down pit road. I think Graham responds to that. I think Bobby responds after that. And once you got your leaders kind of all stacking up 3 laps in a row, coming to pit road, everybody else did, and gave us quite a long run to the end of the race, where some of those exciting battles would be on, 30, 32 lap old tires for some guys, just because they opted to go for the longer run second half of the race.
Yeah, and then 25 to go, Gorlinski out. He spun on his out lap on cold tires off the track, and he was done. 20 to go. Pressure is on Graham Boland, and it was never off. I mean, he never lost Bobby at all. Down to 12 to go. It was still Graham Boland continued to lead Bobby about 4 car lengths. 8 to go. Graham has a bit of a buffer. However, Mitchell is coming. And 7 to go. Mitchell has closed in on Graham Boland and Bobby Zielinski.
Yeah, at this point, we're saying like, hey, watch Mitchell because he's 3 seconds back. But I really thought it was going to be Zielinski who was taking it to Graham. And I thought that Mitchell's best bet was, those leaders get enthralled in a really good fight or they make some contact or what have you. And then all of a sudden he arrives on the scene from the number 3 spot. But Bobby had a look and he wasn't able to make it happen, dropped back a couple of car lengths, and I'm kind of thinking, all right, well, he'll, try to set him back up, and then all of a sudden he started slipping. And at that point, then all of a sudden, Bobby's more so worried about hanging on to second than he is going for the race lead. And it was real interesting having Steve in the booth for this, right? Because there were huge championship implications on the line where if Graham Boland was going to go on and win this race, it was going to bounce Chris Shearburn out of the playoffs. Whereas if Bobby Zielinski or even if Mitchell DeYoung could have gone up and won that race, it would have prevented a new race winner and Steve's car would have stayed in. So Bobby, knowing that if the car ahead of him wins, his teammate is out of the playoffs, I think, and he confirmed it when we talked to him post-race, just got out of Mitchell's way. As soon as he started to lose a little bit, I think without that context, Bobby is going to fight Mitchell a lot harder than he did. Bobby, I don't think he's mad about it, but certainly he wants to beat Mitchell on these road courses, right? He would not just let him go if it wasn't for the circumstances, and thinking of the long game, got out of the way and allowed Mitchell to get up to P2.
It was, their teammates on their, back end team too, and he was coming, and he caught him from behind, and he let him go like a good teammate does, and that I kind of expected that Bobby was going to do that, and he did, and it let Mitchell, take a run at the leader, and but later after the race, I mean, Bobby really said it was dirty air. I mean, I would get up close enough, and I just couldn't get enough to make a move, and he really struggled with that throughout the race, I think, trying to get around Graham. But Mitchell seemed to have a little bit more tire or something. Maybe he was saving earlier in the run. But, yeah, 3 laps to go. He's there. And Graham Bolin is now holding off 2 of the best road course racers there are. And I'm just, like, on my feet and just cheering him on, man. Let's get this done. But, boy, the last lap was just amazing. I mean, ice in his veins is what iRacing said on their Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about high pressure. We saw Vicente Salas get his first win in this series earlier in the year at Richmond, and you got a guy like Graham Bolin in his sophomore campaign looking for a first career win. So not only is that pressure enough, but he's looking for a win to get into the playoffs, and he just had to hold off Bobby Zelensky for 45 laps, right? Bobby was within probably no more than maybe 1.5, 2 seconds for that entire thing, even through the pit cycle. So you've been working hard against the best road course racer all time, and then you got the best road course racer of the year in Mitchell DeYoung, who's going to try to challenge Bobby for that title, looking for his 3rd in a row. So you got all these factors up against Graham Bolin. Nobody would have faulted Graham if he overdrove the car and made a mistake under that amount of pressure. Nobody could have faulted him. And you couldn't help but cheer for him. It's nothing against Mitchell. But what a story for Graham Bolin, who has had so many close opportunities. You got Mitchell DeYoung on you, and he had a bit of a gap. He was very good in turn 1 all night. So he pulled a little bit on Mitchell up through the S's, down to the backstretch, but then through the carousel. Mitchell closes back in, gives him 1 shot. Gives him 2 shots. He holds both of them off, and then they go side by side into the last corner. And for the 2nd straight Watkins-Glen race in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, 1st and 2nd place touch in turn 7. And this time it's Graham Bolin to victory lane for his first career win, becoming the 12th different race winner in 13 races this year. And most importantly, punching his ticket to the playoffs.
And Mitchell's run and the way he raced him that final lap was outstanding too. I mean, it's pure NASCAR racing. It is a touch sport at this point. To hit him, like you said, twice through the carousel to try to get him out of shape. He didn't hit him hard enough to wreck him, but it was enough to kind of move him up a little bit and kind of do a classic, pass for the win. And I'm really impressed at how Mitchell has picked up on the nuances of NASCAR racing on the final lap. It reminds me of Kyle Busch and Brad Keselowski, Marcos Ambrose at Watkins Glen doing the same thing basically on the last lap.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I had alluded to some of those Ambrose battles over the years. Keselowski and Steve was joking, those are the ones that ended well. We had some Kyle Busch battles that didn't end well, but you're right. For Mitchell, who's a guy who comes into this, not saying that he doesn't have the stock car history, absolutely does. But in this road racing, sports car guy, driving Porsches and whatnot. I mean, you really don't do that. So his, I don't know if racecraft is probably the best word. His racecraft, learning how these stock cars handle, where to hit somebody, where it can't, especially in that carousel, right, where those things are so loose. I mean, if he got him in the right rear quarter panel, I mean, Graham's done, right? May not have necessarily put him in the fence, but you hit him on the right rear quarter panel. I mean, he has got to get out of the gas and on the brakes to save it, or he's off it in the boot. But he didn't. Hit him square once, hit him square twice. So to his credit, he was aggressive with him. But I totally agree with you that it was exactly what you want to see. Give him a shot, get to the outside, you guys get together, but nobody did anything, I think, out of line. We saw the same thing with the All-Star race at Nashville with Jimmy Mullis, right? Some bits of contact, but nothing out of line. And I think that these guys have shown good judgment all year in a lot of those high-stakes situations when fighting for race wins. And I think these guys have a good understanding of where that line is, and they've been to the utmost respectful.
I was going to say, when you're watching that last, after the carousel and the left-hander and then the right-hander to come down the straightaway, when he threw that block, I mean, at that point when you threw that block, you're saying what your intentions are as the leader. So would you have faulted De Jong for, going into the last corner and just following him in and just pushing him up the track like he was getting pushed on the outside? But he chose to go for the racing win instead of, the storyline of a moving somebody win.
Well, in turn 7, it's like in turn 6, you could probably move somebody and pass them, right? Because you can kind of force somebody a little bit wide, maybe off of the curb it into the grass or into the runoff a little bit. In 7, you can't really do that because of those tires, right? I mean, there's no runoff. So if you're going to hit somebody in 7, you're wrecking them. I mean, that's the only way it happens. And when Graham goes to the inside a little bit to protect in 6, Mitchell could have said, all right, you're going to block me, I can give it back to you. But I think if they don't touch in 7, Mitchell likely wins the race. Because by Graham going to block in 6, he doesn't have a good exit off of that corner down the little short chute to 7. And Mitchell sees that, backs off, and then goes around the outside. I mean, he did everything right. I think that Bobby was a little bit frustrated maybe with the touch more than Mitchell seemed to be in his post-race, obviously, given the circumstances and whatnot. But, Graham was protecting. He wasn't making like 3-4 blocks. He made like 1-2. So I think everything was fair.
Well, and it was sorry, Mike. It was
after the race. My thoughts about Graham's and what he did there at the last corner, because he kind of just went wide and didn't give Mitchell a lane, and Mitchell hit the wall, and he won the race that way. But I said, look, if it was my grandma on the outside right there, I'd wreck her. I'd put her in the wall, because he just survived that entire thing where he almost got turned, and like the whole scenario, the whole 45 laps of being chased by these two road guys, and down to the last lap, man, I'm going to win this thing, and he did, and kudos to him. I thought it was a great move.
I think if it's Formula One, people aren't happy about it, because I guess in open wheel racing, if you're alongside somebody, that's enough to get the spot. But Mitchell's at his door. Would Mitchell have the right to be upset that he ended in the tire? Sure.
Well,
right? I mean, he tried his best to be as clean as possible. Did give him a couple of shots, so maybe, Graham not necessarily giving him all the room in 7 is also fair, because he's thinking, hey, you hit me twice, I'm gonna give you a little bit of a nudge. But I think when you look at it as a whole, if the roles are reversed, I don't think Graham Bolin could be upset if the same thing happened to him and he was challenging Mitchell for the win, right? So I think it's aggressive. It's hard racing, but ultimately respectful and not crossing the line. And I think both drivers shared that same sentiment after the race.
I like the way you put that, Evan, because you're pretty much dead on there with the F1. That's they're probably penalizing because they didn't give racing room, but I just don't know where it changed in motorsports, where like in NASCAR, at least there it's you got to get around them. And you have to make sure your car is there to do it. Like, you don't have to give someone the track if they're trying to pass you, so they need to make the room. And if they're gonna wreck you, that's them making the room. But you don't have to give them that exit of that corner, and that's what Graham did. He just kind of went out there, kind of using his hips a little bit higher when he was out there, but it worked really well for him.
I love. Well, that's the thing, right? I don't know if it's just necessary. And I love Formula One, by the way, but I don't know if it's just necessarily a Formula One kind of mentality, or if it's just open wheel racing. Generally, because that racing is very different. You can't be hitting like you are in these full bodied stock cars. I'm aware of that. But in some of that racing, somebody gets a nose to somebody's door, and people think, all right, he's got the spot. You got to give it to him. And I just don't agree with that, especially in stock car racing. Probably different than open wheel. I don't think it's a 1-to-1 comparison. But if you're passing me, you need to pass me before it's your position. You can be 9/10 of the way clear of me if you dive it up my inside. But if you're not clear and you cut across my nose trying to, run off the corner like you got the corner, no. I think it is the onus of the overtaking car to complete the pass and not the opposite.
I think that's in the actual iRacing rulebook. If you look at it, they say that it's the car's passing's responsibility to complete it cleanly.
So, classic NASCAR finish, classic broadcast call of the last lap, Evan, and this playing it back and listening to you call it, I would venture to say this might be your best call yet.
We've had some exciting ones. I always try to not get too excited, but I can't help it, right? I mean, it's fun. Like I said, it's a great story. Graham going for the win. Nothing against Mitchell, because I've been just as excited to see what Mitchell's done in this series. And for the longest time, Bobby had that thing where he could win the road courses, but he needed to improve on the ovals. It's kind of funny that this is the year of all years when Bobby's got the win on the oval, not the road courses, right? But anytime you get a new kid in victory lane, especially somebody like Graham, who works so hard, and it's so good for that entire team as well. It's just great to see new winners continuing to prove that year after year, this series is so competitive. You can't really look at rookies as rookies, because when you look at the ladder they took to get to this level, I know it's Graham's second year, but guys like Sente and some of these other guys who have gotten their first win, when you look at the ladder they need to take to get to this level, rookie's not really a fair term. So 59, I think, right? The number of different winners we've seen or something like that all time in series history with the Graham winning. So it's awesome stuff. And who would have thought last year when we said we were expanding the playoffs to 10 cars, that with one race left in the regular season, we would be out of room, right? Like, winning you're in, we figure, all right, well, you'll probably get, 7, maybe 8 winners, a couple of guys on points. As it stands now, 2 drivers with wins not making it in, and that could increase to 3, depending on what we see at Michigan in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, let's talk fallout. I mean, Ray Alfala pretty much conceded he's not going to make it. Shearburn's in trouble. I mean, so what do we got going forward? What's the future hold here?
Well, I think coming into this one that we kind of knew that Ray was done. It's funny enough because he actually gains a position in the points, even though he's not a big fan of the road races. But it's funny as well because, even without the win by Graham, Chris Shearburn doesn't have a good night. He actually drops out of the top 20 in points. So if we didn't have Graham Bolin win, Shearburn would have dropped out based on points, and Graham would have been in on points, not the win. Kind of funny. Graham is now the overall points leader this year. There's no situation now for Chris Shearburn or Ray Alfala to make the playoffs, I don't believe, because you'd have to bump somebody else out. They're 21st and 24th, so their first challenge is they got to get top 20. Chris could probably do it. I don't think Ray can do it, but you'd also have to pass Ryan Luza, and he would basically have to DNS it. He, Bob Bryant, and Jimmy Mullis are all some 33 points up the road. So Shearburn and Alfala not going to be in the playoffs this year, despite having a race win. Their focus now turns to staying in the championship. And then the big question is, do we have another different winner, right? Wilson, Vincent, Guest, Kerwin, Ottinger, Duvall. How about Zach Novak, Matt Busa? I mean, all those guys are names that if they get a win, they could be in the conversation. If somebody like a Duvall in 16th wins or Novak in 17th wins, they're not locked. Because remember, you got to be higher than Lusa, who is the bubble driver now with a win, but 14th in points. So if they win, they might be in. But for a guy like Steven Wilson, who has had such a good year for Roush and is so deserving of a win, that could be a great story. So a lot still can happen in the one race that we have left in 2 weeks.
Yep, off to Michigan in 2 weeks on a Tuesday night. And Evan, thank you so much for coming on tonight and telling us about this race. What a fantastic race it was, and glad to hear you call it.
It was. We're done for the road racing this year, but happy I was able to make it back on live for one of these things. Appreciate you guys having me every week, and we'll chat with you after Michigan.
All right, we'll see you then.
All right, guys, let's get into some topics. First up, this was an iRacing Twitter trend. It started by a post by Max Brady, and he asked the drivers in iRacing to rate themselves in a Madden-style rating system. So some big names in the sports chimed in on their assessments, and all of us did our own self-assessments. But it's based on 8 categories. I'll go them real quick. It's aggression, consistency, finishing, qualifying, road course, short track, super speedway, and speedway. So you're basically rating yourself like they do in Madden when they rate football players between 0 and 100. 100 being the very best of the best. And so we had some good responses. Mike was one of the early responders on there. And then it was kind of funny because some people were not being completely honest, and they were kind of called out on their self-assessments. They were like all in the 90s, and they had an I rating of 600. So it was so people were not being honest, or overrating themselves, or not quite understanding the rating system. So what did you guys think? I know, Mike, you were one of the first ones to respond to this, and what you guys put?
Well, Spencer Burns said that if you're rating yourself 90 or above, you really should be top tier. And he was the one calling everyone out on that. But my ratings were aggression 79, consistency 67, finishing 68, qualifying 15, road course 34, short track 68, speedway 79, super speedway 91. Now, I don't know if that's a fair assessment or not. What about some of these other people? Tyler Hudson. Remember, Tyler used to be a former champion in the Coke Series, and he put aggression 90, consistency 92, finishing 98. Now, he probably has the stats to back this up, too. Qualifying 15.
That's David's qualifying.
Speedway 93 he put, super speedway 93.
I like the last one, though. At fault accuracy calls.
He added that, I think.
Yeah, he did.
100 out
he
of
gave
100.
100. Exactly.
See, this was an interesting topic because when I did the thing, I didn't, nobody in here's that we were that, unless you're in the top 40 in the Coke Series for that racing, or you're in the Porsche E-Cup or something like that, I never thought about it that way. I thought about comparing myself to the people that I normally race against, and that's where I was going off of on mine for it.
Right. Well, Malik Ray is another, Malik Ray, I'm sorry, is another guy to kind of benchmark off of, because we watch him race and we know what he can do. Aggression, he says 90, consistency 87, finishing 84. I think that's a little high. Qualifying 78, road course 60, short track 82. I think that's high. Speedway 88. That might be high. Super speedway 97. Yeah, I mean, he did win Daytona, right?
See, I think when he's writing that, he's using his overall, in iRacing. If he goes in and races, and if he just goes into a normal session and races against us chumps sometime, yeah, okay, those numbers will be high. But if you put him up against what his, you got to rate it against what you're into, you're normally racing, and maybe I think it's just a little bit over high, like you're saying, a little bit high feeling. But hey, we all think we're bigger egos than we actually have sometimes, right?
Okay, so let's look at some other people who chimed in here. Brian, tell us yours. Yours look pretty accurate to me.
I put down what I felt, what I was good at and what I wasn't good at physically. So, I'm not real aggressive, so I gave myself a pretty low score on that. I thought I'm consistent on the track, but my finishes aren't consistent. So there's a discrepancy between on-track consistency and finishing consistency. I've been getting just killed on in some of these races. Road courses are definitely a weak spot, so I'm like a 21. I gave myself a 21, and speedways 78, super speedways 81 and a half.
All right, I'm going to do David Hall here. He put aggression 40, consistency 95, finishing 85, qualifying 20, road course 70, short track 90, speedway 85, super speedway 90.
And protest successability 1 out of 100.
Yeah, I knew you were going to go there.
Okay, Greg, let's hear your numbers next.
Let's see. So aggression, I put at 60. I'm not really that aggressive on the track. Consistency, about 85. Finishing was about 85. Road courses is my forte, I guess, would be 95. That's probably a little high, but now thinking about it the way that they're doing it. Short tracks was 90. Speedways 85. 85 for super speedways. I don't know what that last one got copied in. It must have been a copy over, but ignore that last part. But super speedways was 85.
Okay.
Oh no, sorry. Super speedways was 60. Sorry, that's right. I'm not very good on super speedways.
Adam Jocelyn put 69 aggression, consistency 70, finishing 80, qualifying 20, road course 20, short track 96. Wow. Speedway 70, speedway 90. Kyle, I don't have your numbers, so you're going to do these off the cuff?
If I had to go with aggression, I would say it's in the maybe high 40s. I'm not too aggressive. Consistency, I would put it at about an 80. Finishing would be probably about a 60 to 65. Qualifying, it depends. If it's road, it's terrible. But if it's oval, I do pretty decent. So I would probably average that at about a 50. Road courses, I would put that about a 35. Short tracks, would put that near 70. Speedways, probably another 70 as well. Super speedways actually are probably my strongest, so I would get it close to an 85 or 90.
There you go. And then Tony Rochette put aggression 40. That sounds right. Consistency 90. He has been consistent on road this year. Finishing
He's been consistent 80. All around.
Yeah, that's true.
I'd actually put him higher.
Yeah, I was gonna say consistency.
That's true. I mean,
because he finishes all these NIS races, and he, and as bad as some of the NIS races are, he's finishing consistently really well. So I'd get him higher.
He's a little modest with himself.
Road course 50. Short
that should go 60. Up. That should go up. I don't know why I said it. I think that was just his feeling on road courses. He's been doing better than that.
Oh, top 5s and 10s. Yeah, Speedway 70, Super Speedway 85. All right, let's watch NASCAR Cade. And Greg, you watched this.
Yeah, so we talked about this last week, and then obviously this week we got the link posted the next day on our messenger from some of our. I think Kyle, you posted it. I think Bobby posted it as well, so we could actually find it and watch it. So I watched through it. I watched it again just before the show here, but. I just found it interesting the way that everything evolved and, how they actually go about designing these games. I forgot when they were talking about even EA back in the day when they had the sponsorship for it or had the license for it, that you used to be able to go to the track and actually race Dale Jr. and win money from it. And that's how the one guy, was it Derek? I can't remember his last name, Derek Wood or something. He won... he won $10,000 because he beat Dale at Talladega. But
on a controller.
Yeah, and it's just really interesting to see. They tell you how the technology works about scanning the track. It's really basic what they talk about, but the little dots, they show it. Obviously, it looks like they show the actual Watkins Glen in the picture there that looks like it was just rescanned. How they were, I think we were going to talk about it, but they at least have that in one of the things there showing it. But I thought the biggest thing that, I don't know if we've ever heard this story, but Junior snuck one of his 88 cars into Junior Motorsports, the COT car, to get it scanned, and and he nobody knew that's what it was for and why it was there. But it was just I guess it's better to ask for permission than forgiveness, or for forgiveness rather than permission. My bad, I got that backwards. But yeah, it was a great 20-minute segment there to talk about all the racing. It brought back a lot of memories.
It was really neat to see the history as well as the ancient graphics.
That's David on location.
Yeah, to see the old games and stuff. But it's the 20 minutes is interviews with Greg Hill, Dave Kamer, Steve Myers, Dale Jr., some others, key people that were part of the foundation of iRacing. And it's just neat to see the history, to hear them, see them on screen. I love stuff like this. This is great. It's like a history lesson.
I loved watching Dave Kammer talk about everything, because he was so involved in it from the get-go. He's like my James Halloway from Ready Player One of NASCAR racing games, and it was really cool to watch him go over. He got a little technical even on some of his
way too technical.
Yeah, way above technical-wise. But that's how his mind thinks, and that's how he's been able to do all these amazing tire models and everything over the years. So it was really cool to see that.
One thing I also did notice is when they started talking about the first pro invitational race, you could hear the attitude that we were talking about from the get-go on the very first introduction even.
Oh, when they first did the first race from Mike Joy and all that, yeah. That was a big moment.
Mike's number one fan. Mike Joy's number one fan, Mike Ellis.
And we want Alan Bestwick back is what we want. With Jeff Gordon leaving, let's mix things up.
I was really surprised to see stories like Brad Keselowski, and I didn't realize he was that into the gaming. He talked about his history early in his career, and even before his career, really, how he got so involved in it, and that's kind of how he got interested in racing.
It's kind of hard to believe. He just didn't seem that enthusiastic. You'd think if, you got Junior's enthusiasm about all this stuff, iRacing, and then with the way Brad's interviewed there, you'd think he'd be the same type of ambassador for it, but maybe it's just not his personality to do that type of thing. But I've never seen Brad talk about it that way until that point.
Well, Dale definitely came across with how passionate he is. I mean, he tells a story of how, early in his NASCAR career, it was all about iRacing, and it was about, what do I need to do to get back to iRacing? And that's what he thought about night and day and wanted to do, and that kind of thing. And it's just so cool to hear that passion, that we all share that passion. That's why we're on this show. I mean, and it was neat to hear it come out of his mouth and have him talk about it and see that glimmer in his eye, so to speak. Okay, the big topic is 4 Hours of Charlotte. Kyle.
All right, so last weekend was the 4 Hours of Charlotte, but we've got a little disgruntled person here. Last weekend was 4 Hours of Charlotte, but despite a great charity event, not everyone had a great event. Aaron Stillwell posted in the forums that a guy drove around for 1.5 hours, wrecking everyone intentionally after spending the first 2 hours wrecking half the field, probably unintentionally, finishing with 225 incident points in 4 hours, and gained SR. Gained SR.
How does that happen?
Yeah.
Which means his SR... it's probably the lowest. It's so low that he had nowhere to go with it.
So it was unlimited repairs. I don't know if it was supposed to be that way, but it was. And that's how this happened, is the guy would just wreck everybody, and he would just get repaired and go back out and wreck. And whoever was in that split got wrecked by this guy, like literally everybody. And if you read through the thread, multiple people are like, yep, I was in that thread and that guy hit me, you know?
So you know what that tells you, though? It tells you that these races are not moderated at all by anyone from iRacing.
Well, what should happen is, I hope that somebody put in some videos of this. But if it's that many, I'm sorry, but that person shouldn't be allowed. There is no intention to be on iRacing. They shouldn't be on iRacing. They should have, you know, if people are getting banned for words and you know, other wreckings and stuff like that that are publicized, you know, when you're in a charity event, you know, this should be shown as the best thing that it can be, and that should never happen. You're not welcome in iRacing if you're doing that.
So the fast repairs I want to address. I think it was awesome that they were on. Personally, they helped me, and I'll talk about that later. But it's a charity event. People are like, you know, I'm going to get charity money for every lap I complete. Let's make sure they can complete the race, okay? And by having fast repairs on, everybody can complete the race no matter what happens. And I love that idea that they turned it on. But maybe there should be a limit to them. Maybe it should be 20 fast repairs or something, you know?
Or an incident count limit, maybe.
A high one, maybe. Yeah, or something.
Yeah,
because
really
just
high,
to avoid these
right.
kind of people, right? This person should have got DQ'd for something, but he did.
It's 4 hours at that track. It should have never gone over 100, maybe even 75 incidents.
Right, just put up some big old number of incident limit, like 100, like you said, and if because it's some outrageous number, and then if somebody does something outrageous, they'll actually get DQ'd.
I mean, I'm guessing, did these were split as just in general, right? It wasn't split by iRating, was it?
No iRating or safety rating.
So you could have higher ratings with guys that have, you know, obviously it sounds like this guy was probably a rookie license, but because someone said that there shouldn't be any rookies license allowed in these type of events, but
I think it was still split by iRating, but it didn't affect iRating.
No, no, because we just said he gained SR, so it must have been official.
I looked at my results, and nobody got iRating.
Then that doesn't make any sense then, but it's still unacceptable in any part of this racing. It's never been allowed, and you know it shouldn't be allowed. They should be gone.
All right, so moving on to leak week is what I call it, because leaks are common. And Greg Hill, executive vice president over at iRacing, really did it by releasing during the race some Twitter feed, a thread actually, and basically said, last year we decided to try something outside the comfort zone. We created Mount Washington Hill Climb in iRacing. And he shows some pictures of the mountain under snow. He said our visit would have to wait. And then he goes on into a thread basically telling how they've scanned this Mount Washington hill climb.
So my question is, if you look at the picture, you see a snowcat removing snow, and it's posted July 31st, 2021. Is there snow July 31st?
That high?
Yeah.
Maybe.
No, they posted it. It was they've had the picture for a while. They were just leaking it then.
I was going to say.
Right.
Because they are saying, because I don't know if you've ever been up. I think if I remember correctly, I've taken the actual drive on the Mount Washington Road that you can go. The amount it changes is ridiculous. The temperature from the bottom to the top.
Now, there's been a hint about this that we missed. The hint was, and it was RaceSimCentral.net put this out, but they said it was noted on the Formula V announcement that the render of that car showed one piece of color in an otherwise colorless image, and that was a decal saying that this car climbed Mount Washington. So they left us a tidbit there, and nobody found it.
That's one of the few Easter eggs they probably ever got away with without somebody snagging it and figuring it out. But this is so far out of their normal purview. You know, it's a point-to-point track. It's not, you know, you don't start and stop at the same place as an oval or even a road course. So this is completely different than anything they've done before. So I wouldn't even, if I saw that sticker, I wouldn't even have thought much of it.
I'm interested to see how the events shake out, like how they're going to structure an event to do it. Like, are they, you know, is it still going to be a race where you know, try and get the fastest time? Can you have multiple cars go up at a time?
I just wonder if this means we're going to get snow now that we're getting rain.
I can't wait for snow. I'm built for snow.
Okay, so part of the tweet thread on this, I'm going to read some of it. It says, one of the big challenges was the sheer volume of trees and vegetations. It's quite beautiful at the mountain, and as you ascend and encounter different types of vegetation and scenery at different layers of elevation. The sheer volume of rocks was a problem as well. And so the good thing about trying a project out of your wheelhouse is it forces you to try new things. We could not place trees the way we have before, and there were too many rocks. So various shaders were needed to blend materials in a more convincing way. So we invested in technical solutions for these problems, and those solutions will help with quality on all future tracks. The more efficient instancing of rocks will lead to more complex track features like an expanded use of 3D fencing, curbs, tire walls, all rendering efficiently.
So, you know, they've been on haven't they been hiring some more 3D artists and stuff like that in the last little bit here? I wonder if some of these people have started getting into all this stuff.
So check the YouTube video that we dropped in just a few minutes before the broadcast. Holy cow, look at the trees. Look at the trees. I mean, they are so different than the current trees in iRacing. I mean, they look real.
Yeah, the current trees in iRacing are like a four-sided plus sign that, you know, in the distance gives it volume look. But these look like they're, you know, individually rendered limbs and branches and everything. It's beautiful. It's amazing. And, you know, this is a fairly long track. So that's going to be quite a bit of rendering on that kind of stuff.
I want to know where they're going to stick Dale and Steve.
So the comments on this video I looked at, people are worried about FPS. I mean, is this going to kill FPS to have to render all the trees and rocks and everything individually like this?
We just need graphics cards.
I imagine there might be some fine-tuning you can do to turn up or turn down the detail in it, like you do with crowds and pit roads and stuff like that. Maybe help you out with that kind of thing.
Yeah, there'll be probably another graphic setting kind of thing. Yep. Exciting. I'm excited to try it. Greg, I think you mentioned, does this mean new cars? I mean, because the cars we have aren't necessarily designed for this, right?
Well, the hill climb events are like special different classes, so it would be kind of interesting to see, do we get, you know, we're probably going to be able to use everything from iRacing on it, but what about, you know, are they going to come up with, they've got to come up with another car that's specifically from that.
You would think so. Yeah, at the same time, just about anything can go up this track. You know, anything from, like, they had Formula Vs to anything. It's not so dependent on a certain type of car that any other discipline can utilize this track in creative ways.
Well, I think it'll probably favor the rally cars more than anything. But I think you, like everyone's saying, you can race just about any vehicle on it, no problem.
It's a pavement track.
Go ahead, Mike.
Not dirt.
Well, you know, it'd be interesting to see, you know, is it just one car on at a time? or can you do like say 4 or 6 or something and race people up the hill or something? Like I don't. It'd be interesting to see how it does it.
No, there's no way. Look at the video on that Kyle has here.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Okay, so going along with the Mount Washington here, or Washington Mountain, we've got a video from 2017 of Travis Pastrana setting a record time up the mountain. Actually, he did it in 5 minutes, 44 seconds, if I'm not mistaken. Heck of a run. And I tell you what, if the game's anything like the real track that we see in this video, it's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
And you're not racing other people. This is single lane racing, yeah. This will be beat the time, yeah. You know, he put up a 5-minute time, you got to try to beat it kind of thing.
Another thing you see with this video is just how dangerous this track is. You know, if you miss a turn by a little bit, you're going down. You know, you're going down the side of a mountain, and that's not something that iRacing's ever really had to render before either. Usually, you just warp back to your pit stall or something like that. Are they going to be rendering
resets
side? Yeah. So that's another thing that'd be unusual.
If you scroll up there, they've got that. I don't know, the image of the mountain itself. They might have scanned the entire exterior portion of the mountain.
I hope so.
It'd be interesting. What are you gonna do? Fall off and crash? Like it'd be interesting how far do they render it?
Now, I grew up in Colorado, and this immediately made me think of the Pikes Peak hill climb. And boy, oh boy, I hope they scan Pikes Peak, man. That's got to be next.
Isn't that like an 8 or 9 minute run?
Close to a 10-minute run on average.
That's what I thought. So you're looking at the length of the Nordschleifer, right? And that's lengthwise.
Okay, so let's keep going. It's leak week. So next up, rain. So Greg Hill tweeted out progress photos of rain in action. You can see open wheel car. Looks like it's what, Sonoma maybe? Hockenheim. Okay. In the rain, you know, in the wet. What do you guys think about rain coming?
Lisa, yeah, I think that's Hockenheim. I think sorry, Kyle. I think it'll be a great addition. I think we've had this discussion. We don't want it to be like overused. Like, you know, you go into a race and like, can you start? Do you know what how are we going to know what the weather conditions are and race like for these races? Or is it something like when we do our 24 hours? Obviously, anything can happen in a 24-hour race, but you know, they got a lot of sprint races that are in 45 minutes to an hour long. You know, it'd be overdone if it rains every time, or you know, it starts racing in the rain and then gets dry or something like that. I think it just has to be used as its own weather pattern randomly, I guess.
On average, how many F1 races a year end up with rain?
Probably 2 to 3.
I hope they find something that has the same ratio, yeah, because I don't want to be racing in rain all the time. But if it kind of matches how often you're in real life, that would be cool.
Well, see, I always wondered now that, you know, it's been leaked, is it going to run off a live weather pattern or not?
It's possible. I mean, they could run it, you know, it doesn't have to be completely accurate, but if some place is getting rain in that track at that day, they can just say, okay, it's on for that anytime you're racing at that time, and it could dry out or whatever.
But that's kind of in conflict of the way it works now. I mean, like if you go to AI and you're trying to pick a time of year to race, there's certain times a year at certain tracks they actually don't let you race.
Well, and I think the other thing that causes too as a problem is if you build a setup, say even with that F1 car, if you build a setup and go into a race and it starts, you know, raining, you obviously got to do some, you know, you got to change a different, you know, some places you try and trim it out crazy. You got to do some adjustments to get some downforce on it for, you know, rain and stuff like that. So there's got to allow you to do some of that stuff.
Yeah, you need a forecast or something along those lines, because nobody in real life doesn't know what the weather's going to be. They know a few days in advance whether there's at least a chance.
Well, remember, when they developed the weather system to begin with, night and day transitions, going back, and then this is going to be baked into it. So it'll be interesting how it plays out. Is it only going to be for road is another outstanding question. Are we going to see this in oval? Like, I wouldn't be offended if we had a red flag during an NIS race for rain once or twice in a season, just for fun. Just let's have a 10-minute break.
Problem is what happens if it's your only race of the week and you get interrupted that way? Like, it's one thing if you get four starts in a week and it's once it happens. If it's your race that you're in, I don't know if I would have that sitting out well. It's bad enough with some of the cautions at some of these places. Imagine trying to sit for a little bit, wait for a weather pattern to go by. I don't see the ovals doing it. You're going to race in the rain on the road courses, but I don't see the ovals having any weather pattern for it.
Nobody enjoys the oval races when they just turn into a caution fest. So how in the world is sitting there and parking for 10 minutes going to be more fun?
And you know what? Us parking there, someone's going to walk away and there's going to be a car sitting on the track or something like that because someone just walked away and didn't come back to their sim.
Okay, let's keep moving on Leak Week. Greg.
Well, we just had an interesting weekend. Speaking of rain, Hungary had a rain started race and it caused shenanigans for the Grand Prix for F1. But now we got the Hungarian track, Hungaroring coming to iRacing. Did we actually get a confirmation when it would be ready, or just that they had scanned it and working on it? Just soon. So that's pretty exciting because we're starting to. I'm wondering if getting these F1 tracks in is going to eventually get us to getting an updated F1 car of some sorts, like within a year or two span of what we're at right now. What are we at? Like 6 or 7 year old car now. It's right at the beginning of the hybrid era.
You might get what you want. But yeah, there's a render here that shows the track. It's not finished by any means, but they're working on it, obviously.
That's a really technical track, and I think it would really race really well in a lot of the GTs, and I don't know how the hybrid cars would be on it, but it would be interesting to find out.
And the timing of this was right after the F1 race. A lot of people were on social media, and that's when they put this one out, I believe.
Well, they kind of throwed shades at what happened in the race by saying take it easy into turn 1 because 5 cars exited the race because of turn 1.
Okay, and we lost Brian, but he'll be back, I think. So I'll take this one. Other leaks that we found. We found a reply on Twitter to a at KManger25. He said, any word on Watkins Glen or Phoenix getting proper updates? And we got a reply from Greg Hill. We're working on both. So Phoenix is confirmed. Watkins Glen confirmed. And they're both scanned, I understand, too.
Yeah, Watkins Glen was a big talk last night in my NIS race about getting rescanned. So I'm glad to see they're doing it. It needs it.
And then we're going to have the neon cactus at Phoenix. How about that?
So
cactus.
Move the start-finish line then, I guess?
Yeah, that's the whole idea of this rescan.
Good.
Yeah.
How many times have they scanned Phoenix? It's like 3 already? 4?
This will be the 3rd, I think. They had to do it after we got the new stands, and now they've done this redo. So now will we get Phoenix in time for the Phoenix race? That's my question.
Well, can I jump ahead to one here too, Mike? I know there was a talks about the Indianapolis 2 being updated as well, but it sounds like Indy's not going to be ready till next year. I don't think maybe none of these tracks get ready until 2022.
Yeah, these are basically works in progress. What are they working on? These are leaks, basically, that I think in some cases they put out purposely. In other cases, maybe they didn't.
Like, if you think about it, hold on, sorry, Mike, but to finish that segment up, if you think about it, 2022, we're going to go into it with pretty much every track being updated for the NASCAR Cup Series to within a year or two of the, of what it should be, accuracy-wise.
Thanks to the Pro Invitational, really. I mean, how many tracks got updated just because of that? Because they were going to that track.
Yeah, and it's great because now, Atlanta's already pretty much recreated. They're going to scan it, obviously, and redo it once they actually have the track, but surface. But that's going to be fully. That one was an older track from on here. I gotta believe Sonoma is probably the oldest track that they have on here now that hasn't been touched in a while. Maybe Bristol, but Bristol had dirt, so it's been scanned.
Yeah, and Sonoma's probably going away.
Possibly. And we're going to have New California eventually.
How about those unintentional leaks, Kyle?
Looks like Christophe Bouchat posted in the forums that he just watched the Greco interview and noticed that he had the Ferrari Evo GT3 in his car list. In the second to last row on the picture, the last letter looks like a number 4, so that might be the AMG GT4 confirmed. It could also be the Porsche GT4. P.S. On the list, there are also kart and 3 Formula Renault, but maybe the 3.5A was the old /alpha.
I'm gonna fix that. What you said there, Kyle. Jean Christophe Boucher.
I was close. I was real close. Would never know the difference.
That's okay. It'd be interesting. Okay. It looks like a lot of the GT cars are getting scanned now for iRacing, eh? It looks like they're trying to fill that field out as much as they possibly can.
Well, it's getting to be more popular too, it feels like.
So, in the video that Greg Hill put out, he was sitting in front of his computer and he had his car list on the screen behind him, and that's what they're referring to. So this wasn't anything that he intentionally leaked. This was just information that was visible in the video. And people are like, well, how does he have a Ferrari Evo and the rest of us don't?
Well, you have to.
Maybe that it was one of those like hidden little drops that, wasn't intentionally put out there, but it was intentionally put out there?
Well,
yeah, I don't think they're that wise.
I think the thing is I think sometimes you can read into this. They've probably scanned a couple cars that we never were privy to, too, right? Like, I mean, it might be down the road, but you never can guarantee. Just, one thing I learned in building, drawings and assets and things like that, when you're doing it, you create a whole bunch of stuff. Doesn't mean you always use it all, right? I mean, that file could have been anything. It could be a sound. It could be whatever it wants, right?
So if you go to the thread and go halfway down, I somehow lost this off the script, but Hockey Grothier pointed out, he said, I'm going to call it. He said, the picture that shows the words Mercedes W12, that's actually also known as the Mercedes F1 2021 car.
Which, that I really highly doubt that they got a scan of. I don't, unless the actual Mercedes company asked the F1 team to let them scan it. There's no way that they'd have that up-to-date car in here. Like,
yep, there it says Mercedes W12.
I honestly just don't. I can't see it being it, because why would you scan it on here, and then you got guys like Max Verstappen and Lando Norris being able to jump in here and use that type of thing that's a rendered scan of it.
Now, Hockey goes on to say in a subsequent post, he says, maybe the W12 is an alias for the current McLaren F1 car. That would explain why the car on the Hockenheim screenshot, back when Hockenheim was about to be released in the similar rain shot we saw yesterday, had the 2021 livery on it. I choose to believe one or the other is legit. It's the last year of this F1 generation, so they'll be obsolete next year anyway. Nothing to hide for McLaren or Mercedes.
So that is a good point. I didn't think about it. That is the last generation of that car. So that means you wouldn't be releasing it. If anything, it wouldn't be released till after the 2021 season's finished.
So are we getting a current F1 car, maybe?
Well, if you're going to get it, you might as well get one of the faster cars on the grid now, right?
The thing is, doesn't like the F1 game doesn't own the rights to all of the F1 cars to where iRacing won't be able to get their hands on it?
FIA's got their fingers in that, right?
It depends on, yeah, I guess it would depend on who says it's okay. Like, what if they went, if Mercedes might have a say in it too? I don't know. But Mike's right. The FIA usually would kibosh all that stuff if there's license stuff involved.
But like you said before, why are we getting all these F1 tracks so easily? And now, it kind of ties in with that.
Well, isn't there a discussion about, Monaco was even, they'd love to do Monaco at one point. Like, if you're investing that time, you got to have something that actually races on it all the time, right?
They're getting ready to run that series in the IRO1 jet car, right? So maybe they want all these
for that,
all the stuff for that, right?
Yeah. And it doesn't make sense to have a F1 car when they're trying to get this IRO1 off the ground,
Yeah, that would kill that like right away.
Yeah, but iRacing's never really cared about competing series that way, would they? Like, look how many different Porsches they have. Like, I don't think that matters because the IRL one is it really?
That was an internal project.
Yeah, it's an internal project, but it's also a fantasy. If Mercedes walked up to you and let you scan their car today, I'm sure iRacing goes fine. I'll do. They're like, yeah, it's definitely.
Okay, we're going to keep going on the leaks, guys. Next up, we got Jordan on Twitter tweeted out, hey, let's get Slinger next as a short track. And sure enough, Dale Earnhardt Jr. responded and said, we're working on it.
I think we should have done
another track announcement.
I think you should have done this in the other order because this was on that post, was it not, Mike?
Well, this is when he announced Hickory, and then this guy replied to the post about Hickory, and then he said, "Oh yeah, we're doing Slinger too."
Well, and Brian, here I'm just gonna take this Hickory thing here. So, because I don't know if you guys listened to the Dale Jr. download this week, but he leaked that obviously Dale, that was his first contract when he signed on his thing. So Dale signed that track, the Hickory track. And then I'm guessing this post, and I don't know, when he says working on it, does working on it mean they've actually got the rights to it, or are they working on the deal to try and get that track scanned? It's kind of hinted, right? But also Dale was talking about the thing about Hickory is he's found out from the guy that the people that own Hickory Motor Speedway that someone's gone out and purchased a billboard on the track before it got scanned. Or was it Slinger or Hickory? One of the tracks. But anyways, they've purchased a billboard so that when it is scanned, that company's now on that billboard in iRacing. So there's revenue dollars. People, that sign is forever ingrained in iRacing now.
Yeah, and I guess Dale did the paperwork, like he did the negotiation with the track on the contract, to get it scanned and all that. So, pretty cool.
Well, and I think, could this be one of the reasons why Dale jumped in a little bit more too, so that he can get these short tracks involved more? Because obviously all the NASCAR tracks are done, and any of the European and stuff around the world tracks like the road course stuff, they got to work out slowly. But you know, if you bring him into the track, I'm sure you're going to get all these tracks to agree to get them scanned, right?
Oh yeah. If you're a short track owner and you got Dale Earnhardt Jr. ringing your phone, you're going to listen. All right, and then yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say you might even be calling him, saying, "Hey, come to my short track."
Right. Come help us. Come scan it.
Well, and he'll know the best ones to scan sooner than some of the others, right? Like, I mean, he might want the iRacing to, you know, immortalize some of these tracks that he's doing on lost speedways before they disappear completely. But you know, moving on to like the next thing here, we have Traxton, the website here. I guess Justin Malello posted or had an article about it, just about some of the stuff with iRacing adding, you know, confirming rain is in the development, some of the cars that they're talking about. And I thought it was kind of interesting reading through the article here that we've been wondering what they're going to do with the you know, the multi-class cars with the new manufacturers changing the different hybrid systems that are coming. And I guess the LMDH classified that the new hybrid category that's coming to I guess hypercar. Under the FIA, the hypercar, the hypercars, what's that going to do? You know, they're going to have to come up with something, you know, for Daytona, with the Daytona hypercars and stuff like that. So it's interesting to see, you know, are we going to get some like Acura, Audi, BMW, Porsche at some point with all these different regulations that are coming out in the next couple of years for these Enduro series under the FI standards. But I don't know, does that affected with the, you know, new agreements that when that other company purchased the contract with certain series and things like that, who knows if that's going to affect some of it on air as well.
Well, I think the real story is they plan on building it. Okay, they're going to build a hypercar. They're going to build a 2022 hypercar. You know, I think when we've talked about IMSA in the past and road racing and, you know, DP cars and stuff, we always get these older ones because nobody wants to give us anything current. Well, it sounds like, you know, Steve Myers has plans to get a current car here.
Well, I think it's the hardest thing to do when you get up into those bigger series. They want to keep their secrets hidden, right? Those cars are so meticulous. It's hard to ask somebody for it.
But if you got BMW and Porsche involved, and they're already in bed with iRacing completely, you know, it makes sense to think that, you know, maybe both of them, maybe it's going to be like, who can get the iRacing, you know, hypercar first out, you know, and they would take the thunder.
Yeah, and the other part of this article too this is where I read about the Indianapolis part. Indianapolis Motor Speedway has been recently rescanned completely, but they're not expecting anything to be released until next year. But also Monaco, what I was talking about Monaco here, that was talked about. But I think it's kind of interesting. They're talking about drag racing here in the bottom. If they're doing drag racing, is that like another thing when they're trying this hill climb thing? They're stepping out of their, you know, something different. Maybe, you know, we might see something like drag racing down the road.
Well, it's that drag racing is something that has been talked about, but they don't see it likely just yet. Some other tidbits here was, Indy got scanned. And then the rain timeline, it says whether or not that translates into it shipping by the end of the year. I don't think we're ready to say that. We want to make sure we do it right. Internally, at least, we'll certainly be driving around in rain by the end of the year.
I don't think we see it. It's probably one of those things that's, you know, even if we get it, there's going to be some problems with it. Then brings back and they rein it back a bit. I think it's going to be one of those big, huge things in progress for 2022.
have you ever had a week in iRacing that we've had this much content announced in a 7-day period? I don't think we have.
Need to have more of these charity races so we can get information like this on a regular basis.
Well, and do you think it dropped because of all that, Brian? Like, do you think that the only reason they
started it,
it started it did it keep it going because it was just everything kept going all week?
Well, I mean, if you look at the Slinger announcement was based off a question about the Hickory announcement, and then we had the Formula One thing and the Ferrari Evo. That was based off of a screenshot of a computer screen and a video. So I think there were some unintentional leaks as well. The Phoenix and Watkins Glen rescan, that was based off of a reply on a Twitter too. That wasn't something they said during the race.
So it's basically just a lot of, once something gets leaked, people poke and prod, and they were kind of just, willing to share some of the stuff.
Pretty cool. Kyle, how did it finish though for the 4 hours of Charlotte?
So I want to pat everyone on the back who helped donate for the 4-hour race for the Multiple Sclerosis Society. If I can speak, I'm terrible with words today for some reason. Multiple Sclerosis Society. They raised over $55,000 for that charity.
Yep, well done. Finally, to wrap it up, they're also iRacing put out their own page, website with a list of the leaks. I think they missed some, so I'll refer you guys to iRacersLounge.com for a complete list.
Well, their leaks were the leaks that they confirmed. The other stuff was, a lot of those other leaks are speculation leaks that aren't completely confirmed.
I don't think that you can. I don't know about that. So the Phoenix and the Watkins Glen, that's Greg Hill, the executive vice president of iRacing. We're talking staff are confirming this.
But it's just basically, yeah, I think they're trying to do the noteworthy things. I guess if something that's already exists in iRacing, maybe they didn't want to think that was as big a news, right?
Well, I mean, on their page, they put rain confirmed, Mount Washington, Hungaroring, Hickory, and that's it. That's all they listed. So the Ferrari Evo, that's speculation, I would say. We haven't had an employee say anything about that. And the F1 car, too. That's still speculation. Okay, and they're busy, so help is wanted. Brian.
Yeah, so with all this stuff they're doing, they need more help. So another job opportunity has opened at iRacing. This time they're looking for web engineers. So they're looking for an experienced, detail-oriented senior web engineer. It's got to be next-gen web applications like React, Redo, and WebSocket. So that all that stuff's a must. But go to the if you have this kind of background, go to the forums and look it up, and maybe this will be right for you.
Okay, and who's ready to do some painting?
Well, looks like here that they are going to be implementing the number change on the stock cars here. So looks like we're going to be moving them forward. So if you've got a paint that you really like that you're using, get ready to change where that number is located at.
Obviously, for 2022 season, this is in reference to for NASCAR. But if NASCAR is going to change it, we're going to end up with it in iRacing. So kind of interested to see how my paint would look like with its modified number movement thing.
I think Bobby will do a perfectly fine job figuring out how to make it flow better with, like we were talking about in our messenger, you got less of a back panel there behind, like a quarter panel behind the tire and stuff. So, that's why they want to move it forward, so they got more advertising area there on these new cars. So I think it'll be great. I just don't know how, obviously it's going to have a certain size, like it does on the side of the car. We're just moving it forward to right behind the tire, right?
I mean, when we talked about this on our thread, I'm a little down on it because NASCAR, I don't know. I mean, it's been around forever and there's an identity to NASCAR. And I think the number placement is part of the identity. And they've just monkeyed with so much stuff, and they just have thrown everything to the wind that used to be tradition, and to do this on, it just rubbing salt in the wound, I guess. And I'm not the only NASCAR fan out there who thinks that about the numbers.
Is NASCAR in iRacing, the NASCAR, the trucks, the Xfinity, are they the only cars that have the main major numbers, but like changes, like the way it's that you can change the color, the font, like completely do identical with the paint job? Like a lot of the other ones, they're all just placed in their number, and like any of the IMSA cars and all those road cars, it's basically inside of a box, and that's what it is. Like you're right, Mike. Like it's identity because of its uniqueness. It's unique to you or your car.
I just think NASCAR is going to regret this, but we'll see where it lands.
So we got a winner again. So Bernard Pollard Jr. Tweeted. He's got another. He's in front. Or tweeted from victory lane again, with sharing his enthusiasm on Twitter in his Allied Pit Crew shirt. He's pumped up, screaming. He looks happy as can be. I mean, we're all like that when we get a win, and it's good to see him enjoying doing this again. Because I think there was a time there we just didn't see many tweets from him, and now he's back doing it again. And it's good to see him enjoying the racing again.
It's nice to see him win more than once. The floodgates were going to open once he got that first one, and it's neat to see his reaction on the second win. I mean, he's just as pumped. I mean, and to hear him screaming out, "Let's go!" and he loves it.
Now, if only we can get him to reply back to our tweets about getting him on the show.
You've tried.
I can get him to reply to everything else I comment, but I can't get him to reply back to that.
So during the Coke race, Richmond E Raceway, I guess it is, one of the Coke teams, they were tweeting at Bernard Pollard, trying to goad him into doing a race against the two Coke drivers they have. Hey, let's do a head-to-head or something like that. And I think he agreed to it. Against Mullis and Novak. Yeah, good luck.
Maybe a super relay.
And
okay, this is just...
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
And this is just a reminder that, hey, the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup began its qualifying round this week at the Hockenheim Ring. So if you were interested in trying to qualify for the Super Cup, make sure you get your races in. And so it's starting this week.
Okay. And next up, we had some updates from iRacing. No real release notes, though, because these were database updates or database maintenance. And so there's really no release notes. I think it happened on Wednesday. And then we got note Wednesday, an emergency patch or emergency maintenance needs to happen on Thursday. And I think a lot of Road to Pro teams held their breath. Like, what are they changing?
Quick, everybody, change from being a Chevy driver, be a Ford or Toyota. You'll be fine.
Right. Do I need to get out of the Chevy? Yeah. But no, they didn't change anything like that. It was just a normal database update this morning, even though it was called an emergency maintenance. I don't know if I was telling the guys, I don't know if I've heard them use the word emergency before in a release. And Greg, you were thinking it must be a competition thing if it's an emergency, right?
It'd be something that obviously was in dire need. Like it's something that if you're gonna, they've never really titled it emergency, have they? Like unless it's something has broken the sim. So is it a threat that they had found, or it's something that has to get done before a certain time, before something happens in a specific race or whatever? But it just seemed odd that they titled it that.
All right, guys. Next up, so the Allied Esports has a giant gaming truck that they're going to be taking around to NASCAR events. So it's a big 80-foot 18-wheeler type of truck that folds open, and it's going to have casters and booths and everything in there. Where people who were at these races, it's going to start at Watkins Glen and then go all the way to Phoenix, can go in and play. Do these racing games. Some of them are like Rocket League and Mario Kart Deluxe, but iRacing will be on there as well. So if you participate, you'll have a chance to play for prizes and giveaways throughout each weekend activity. So look for this truck if you go into one of these NASCAR events coming up. It doesn't look like it'd be something you can miss because it's a monster, and it looks really cool.
Oh, man. I mean, the branding on the truck is eNASCAR, okay? And what a way to promote eNASCAR, to get a big rig, behind the grandstands at these races, let the fans see the logo, go try the iRacing. They can sit down and try it. I mean, what a way to capture the fans' interest here.
Well, that's how you get future customers and future fans. Like you're saying, it's, a lot of people don't buy things until they can test it or don't invest in anything if there's nothing to, no product to show it off. And it's really hard to show off iRacing if you don't sit down and do it, or any of these things. So why not have these on they're looking for more interactive things to do on a weekend. These things need to be at the track to get the fans back.
Cool.
Now that there are fans at the track.
That is true.
A couple reminder posts. First, Kyle, the 2021 Knoxville Nationals.
Just a reminder of an upcoming iRacing Knoxville Nationals, the annual Sprint Car Championship event held at Knoxville Raceway in Knoxville, Iowa, using the 410 Wing Sprint Car. Date is August 16th to the 21st, Monday through Friday, one time slot at 9 p.m. Eastern each day. That's 2 GMT. Saturday Super Session, taking the top 60 in overall points from the race week, 9 p.m. Eastern at 2 o'clock GMT.
Okay. And then I think I saw something about they were going to add a second Super Session, but I don't have the details. That's not next week, but the week after. Now, what else is going on is the Grid Finder Paint Festival contest is still ongoing. And I think we have 2 entries so far. I mean, somebody's going to win gloves, sim racing gloves, and $50 in iRacing credit, and a guest spot on the show. If you can get a Grid Finder paint with iRacers Lounge as a sponsor on the side and submit that on social media and gridfinder.com via the rules that we have on our website, by August 18th, we're going to pick a winner. Now, earlier today, I saw a tweet from Grid Finder of a Cadillac CTS done up in the colors, and boy, did it look sweet. I don't know if that's an official entry to the contest or if that's something they put together or what. I have to figure that out. But it's a beauty, and I was looking for a paint for the Cadillac too, so maybe that's what they did me a paint. So I'll certainly have to load that up. It is available on Trading Paints, guys, if you want to run that Cadillac. Okay, next up, podcast housekeeping notes. Don't forget about the Aftermath. They put out one this last Saturday. It was pretty good. Talked about some racing that I did as well, and I was pretty happy about that. I also ran across the iRacers Lounge at Pandora, and I kind of forgot we were at Pandora. We're at Spotify. We're at a different website I found too called podchaser.com. And so, yeah, you can find us anywhere a podcast can be found. Don't forget about Midwest Simulations, the coupon code iRacers Lounge. And we're on the Performance Motorsports Network. Hardware, software.
Did you get Kyle's announcement too first?
Oh yeah. So to all the listeners out there, season 3 of the iRacing iRock Challenge series is coming to an end. We're right around halfway. So we are getting together a recruitment race. So we were going to do just the top 15 from season 3 advance to season 4 automatically, and then we do a mini season where the top 15 of them advance to the season 4. We've now changed it to the top 25 automatically advance, and we're going to do basically a recruitment couple of races to get 5 more people into the series. So be sure to check that out. We are the iRacing iRock Challenge series on Facebook. You can find us there. You can also reach out to myself, Kyle Pendergraft, on Facebook as well, even on Twitter at Loud Pedal Gaming. If you're interested in it, let me know, because we're going to be running the Gen 4 cars. The schedule has not been made up yet. We're still working on that, but it's going to be a lot of exciting fun. Actually, tonight we're working on cutting a promo video for it, so keep your eyes peeled. We'll have that shared all over Facebook and Twitter as well.
Hardware, software.
All right, guys, first up is actually a continuation of a story from last week. Barry Rowland on his YouTube channel, Sim Racing Garage, did part 1 of his all-in-one gaming review of his 8020 cockpit rig, and today was recently was posted part 2. So the first part that we covered last week was just him assembling the stuff, going through over all the parts and the connection, everything. And this week he installs the seats, the wheels, the pedals, all the peripherals are added to the rig, and he goes through everything. He mounts a direct drive. I think it's a AccuForce wheel, a semi-cube maybe, and Prisma racing seat. So he goes through all the steps, how he attached everything to this system, and even after adding all this extra stuff, it's still just a beautiful, beautiful rig. That anodized blue is just beautiful. Yeah, it's very solid, no flexing, very nice, well built.
This is definitely a SimLab, clone kind of SimLab replacement kind of item. But I like the color. I mean, the like you said, the blue just really makes it pop, and I think that gives it an advantage over SimLabs. Love it. And I'm really kind of starting to think about getting an 8020 rig, and in fact, I started a Google document making a list of different features I wanted to have, because I don't want to forget something. Because today I was thinking I need a little stainless steel bowl on an arm off the side of the 8020 to hold my chocolate, my candy.
Trick or treat when you eat it, though, Mike.
All right, next up, I saw this in the Facebook on one of the pages, and Jürgen Kottman asked the question, how about a monitor behind your back with a rear view and a real car mirror above the primary screen? What are your thoughts?
I'm out on that one.
Well, first of all, could you technically do that? Could you put a the rear view somehow on a monitor behind you.
You can. iRacing does have a way to change while you're driving. Well, before you get into the vehicle, your camera view. So you could technically do that, but you would need to run, I don't know, maybe a separate card. I'm not too sure how that would work, but I'm sure it could be done.
I don't know.
You could stream it up to it and screen capture the. I don't know if, well, I guess you could.
There'd be a delay.
Yeah, I was gonna say there would no way to get away the delay. I don't even know if you could display capture it into it and just crop it to that size, but I still think there'd be a delay no matter what.
But yeah, I've seen videos where people run actually iRacing in third-person view.
Yeah, Tom Coombs replied, "I use a mirror to warn me when the missus is coming."
All right, so we're going to move on here to this GTR simulator racing seat. I mean, it looks just like your almost everyday type of sim racing seat, or even something you would put into like a tuner car. They do come in some pretty good colors, though. It's like, is that like a baby blue almost?
Yeah.
And you almost call it three-tone because of the black rings around the headrest there, but really it's a two-tone. They've got baby blue with white, all white with red, all black with red, and all red with white. Pretty sharp. Goes for $248.39 US out of summitracing.com.
I really like the white with the red, but I don't know if I'd ever buy a white seat for sitting down for hours in.
These are nice. I mean, affordable. They look comfortable, especially if you're a bigger guy. It's not a traditional bucket, where you're sitting in kind of thing. The seat kind of has a flat look to it, So this reminds me of the seat on my cockpit, actually.
It looks like they recline too. It looks like a recliner on the side there to release the backrest.
That's
pretty good value.
That's $248 American, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Summit is.
Yeah, Summit's American. Yeah, that's pretty reasonably priced, actually.
Now this is what's got me excited, Brian. This next seat.
Yeah, so this is from Grid Engineering. It's a Canadian company that's actually offering a full selection of SimLab seats to the U.S. market. So, so they got a whole bunch of SimLab seats listed on their website. It's Canadian, but I'm sure they ship to U.S.
And they not only sell SimLab seats, but all stuff SimLabs. Bobby told me today he was going to order those little mounts for the triples that makes them real precise. I forget what they call them. But I always have loved that new SimLab seat that they have shown on the website. Now, on the Grid Engineering website, they don't have that particular seat yet. They have some of the older ones that SimLabs has sold in the past that were branded differently. But I'm hoping that they're going to have that one available, because I was really keen on that seat. I've been wanting that Max Pappas seat, but I mean, the SimLab seat I saw, that's an easy second.
The P1X is the top of the line one, right? For
yeah.
SimLabs? Yeah, okay.
We're going to do one more before results. Kyle.
Alrighty, so what we've got here is something I think that everybody's kind of looking for, especially if you have an 8020 rig. Advanced Sim Racing is offering an 8020 swivel button box mount for $49.99. Just two simple little brackets that slide into your 8020 profile, and it looks like it does the job just fine. It is hard to find button box mounts that will fit what you need, and I think this would be perfect for somebody with 8020.
Yeah, you just run a bar of the 8020 off the side, and you put these brackets on it, and you got a great way to mount almost any kind of box.
That's what I was gonna say. It's pretty much any size you can You can lengthen it to for one of the bigger boxes, or if you have a little up and down like book size one, it's perfect for each size.
It looks like it would work like if you use a Stream Deck or something like that too.
Okay, if you're looking for something for that. And with that, let's jump over to results. Let's talk. The NASCAR iRacing Series is back after the Olympics, and we're at Watkins Glen. I'll start out with Wednesday Open, P13. On the first lap, I hit a curb on the final corner and spun out hard. And I took some guys with me. I wasn't happy about that. I was second to dead last at that point, and I drove it back up to 13th. I was like 27th to 13th. I had one other self spin after that, after the pit stop. Otherwise, I probably would have caught Tony. Now, Tony Rochette, he was in my split. He got a P12 right in front of me. He said it broke the top 10 streak of every NIS attempt this season of being top 10. He said he just wasn't fast. David Hall, P17. He put slow. Greg, I got you down as internet issue.
Point there. Oh, I don't know what happened. I lost everything on the screen, and when I came to,